Today's show is brought to you by ExpressVPN. They're the fastest VPN we've ever used. Try them out at expressvpn.com/funhaus. Hey everybody, welcome to Filmhaus. We're recording this episode on March 31st, 2021. So no pranks today. Maybe tomorrow.
Unless that's the prank. What if the prank is that you're saying the wrong day and we did record it April 1st and that the big prank is that everyone's going to go, oh, there were no pranks except the episode was a prank. Sorry, Elise.
Then you splice in the prank, or is this a setup for the prank?
Some friends of Rooster Teeth, Armando Torres does another show called Cult Podcast, and they're like, hey, do you want to be part of our April Fool's thing? Spoiler for their April Fool's prank. And I was like, no, I'll no part of that. I don't want to fool your poor audience in the show.
Oh man, are they going to do a prank where like they start a cult or something?
They do a prank every year where they talk about a fake cult. And then I've listened, because I listened to their show, I've listened to 2 where they've pranked me because I don't look at the date. And then each time I'm like, fuck, that's like 2 hours of my life wasted. So no,
I think if we were doing a prank for this podcast, we would come up with fake movie news. That would be like stuff getting green. Yeah.
Like Darth Vader and Obi-Wan Kenobi facing off, even though they were supposed to face off in A New Hope, and it doesn't make sense canonically for them to see each other again.
Welcome to the show, everybody. This is Filmhaus. This week on the show, James and I have the pleasure of being joined by Blaine Gibson and Alfredo Diaz, who I have a history with, a past.
A dark past.
Because we do a podcast together that is premiering on the Warner Brothers Entertainment YouTube channel on April 9th. It's called Popcorn and Shield. And in that podcast, we talk about big movies coming from Warner Brothers. And then also we look back at some classics from the WB. And
is that your frog?
Is that what that?
Michigan J. So I think we have a good time doing that podcast.
Yeah, they're making us watch movies every week and then talk about them.
They're making us watch movies every week. The funny thing about the Popcorn and Shield podcast is that just off a frame for all of our cameras is a tiny gun with one bullet in it. So,
well, it's a tiny gun, and then when it clicks, another tiny gun comes out.
Oh wow! It fires guns.
Yeah,
you don't need to do it. Just put it away.
Fredo's doing a bit. Got it right. We also had to hire that person to get Fredo on this show too.
Yeah.
There's two.
There's a second
guns with 2 single bullets. So
wow.
Today on the show, we're not talking about WB stuff. We're talking about Amazon. We're talking about Disney because we're talking first about Invincible. Has everybody here seen Invincible?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's so good. I wish I hadn't watched the trailer. I'll tell you that much.
I hadn't seen it. Have either of you read it? I know James hasn't read it. But have either of you guys read the comics?
No. Oh, God. Invincible's been out for, 2 decades now? I've read a handful of volumes, and then it's always something I wanted to get back into, but I love Invincible, but I felt deeply in love with Saga, so I've been on a Saga kick.
I love Saga.
Yet.
Is that Kirkman? Who? I don't know. I read comic book writers. It's 90% Star Wars, but I don't know comic book writers, and Kirkman's the one dude that I've followed his career. So I need to get into Invincible.
Oh, you're a big fan of Battle Pope as well?
No, I just did Walking Dead, and then I think he had some other side series that was like a detective thing. Was that a thing, Battle Pope?
Yeah, that's how I first was introduced to Kirkman, is that he has a comic called Battle Pope, which is the Pope is this super jacked superhero dude, and his sidekick is this measly little Jesus. I used to own one copy of it, and I was like, oh, sweet. And then I found out later it's like, oh, he went on to go do Walking Dead and a bunch of other stuff.
Yeah, I'm looking at it right now. The Pope is ripped.
Jack, and he hangs out with hot chicks and stuff all the time. It's awesome.
But he's celibate though, right?
Picking his nose.
No, I'm pretty sure he bangs them.
In a Hawaiian shirt.
Battle Pope rules.
Anyway, sorry, Elise.
No,
we're talking about Battle Pope this week.
I know that you used to really dig Battle Pope.
Yeah. I carried that.
That's something I remember about you.
Yeah, I think when I worked at G4, I had an issue of Battle Pope that was in the plastic that I kept at my cubicle, at my desk. And I'd look up and I'd go, someday you're going to make something great. Someday you're going to make something great, like when Robert Kirkman made Battle Pope.
Well, yeah, he did that, and then he did Invincible, which, unlike Battle Pope, got adapted into a series at Amazon. The basic premise being that Mark Grayson is a normal teenager, except for the fact that his father, Nolan, is the most powerful superhero on the planet. As he comes from an alien world, he's Omni-Man. He's been every person from Omni-Man's planet is tasked with watching over a different planet. And in Omni-Man's case, it's Earth. But shortly after his...
I'm sorry, but Dutch is just having a field day behind Blaine.
He doesn't hump. He's just playing with
the dog.
He's playing with his
I'm not saying humping, but just throwing the bed around, and it's just a delight to watch. For any of our audio listeners, this is the one to pick video.
Yeah.
Please go ahead.
And Dutch is Blaine's roommate.
Yes.
Yeah. 48-year-old man.
Mostly likes to stay in the yard.
I do like that. I feel like he cherry picked in Invincible a lot of like popular things that happen in comic books, because like Omni-Man's like kind of a mixture of Superman, but he's also got some Green Lantern core in him.
Yeah,
and this is just based off of the first 3 episodes that I've watched that are available. Yeah, it's fun. It's fun so far.
Yeah.
Omni-Man is kind of like this grizzled Superman. It's sort of what we, I think, hoped that in the Superman verse, Warnerverse, maybe we would get to this type of character.
Yeah. He's like what you would hope for with a Superman that's voiced by J.K. Simmons.
Yeah.
Just the whole entire cast for this show, when they announced it a while back, it's just a star-studded cast. They did a fantastic job. And there's a lot to say about the first 3 episodes.
Dude, that first episode, when it went to credits, I was like, yeah, that was pretty cool. And then it kept going. And it did kind of a reveal, and I was like, "Holy shit! I do not know what to expect from the show."
Yeah,
I also love that he has a mustache.
Spoiler for everybody: we're probably just going to be openly discussing spoilers for the show. It's just more fun for us. I'm so sorry. So
it's impossible to talk beyond the first episode.
Yeah,
unless you're discussing spoilers, but
because basically in the first episode, his Omni-Man's son Mark hasn't really come into his own powers yet, but usually around the age of 18 in this lineage on this planet, people do. They come into their power, but maybe his is a little delayed because he's half human. So, I mean, there's lots of plot, but the main thing is that there's this group of the Guardians of the Globe, which are sort of like your Justice League. I think each of one of them is sort of like a Wonder Woman and Aquaman, though Batman. In the case of this, Batman, I do love the Aquaman substitute, which is just the fish head guy. He was my favorite.
Yeah. So general consensus all around is that everyone really likes the show, right?
Yeah. No, I love it.
I like it.
I think it's a cartoon. Like, I think it looks like its animation style is like close to the source material, but I do think that they did cut some corners around like the cartoon elements. Like, it doesn't look like a beautiful cartoon. Like when the aliens come out of the portal, they use that same shot of them all running.
Yeah, when you see it, it's almost like a little like Adult Swim.
Yeah.
Sometimes. There was one shot. Oh man, where was it? When Mark went flying for the first time, like actually under control before he could learn how to land. Go back and watch it. There's a shot of him flying over the ocean, and it literally looks like I keyframed it in Premiere. Like it's like just like a little figure.
Yeah.
It is interesting. I like the show, and after 3 episodes, I'm definitely going to keep watching the show. I don't think it is perfect, and maybe I don't love it as much as everyone else is loving it because of a couple tonal things for me. Number one, was not into the show until the post credits of episode 1. I was like watching it. I was like, I mean, it's superhero tropes, and it's not exactly a new hot take on superhero tropes, which is kind of Kirkman's gas at some point. Like the biggest thing that killed me for Walking Dead when I was reading the comics was that I had the omnibus, and it opens with a passage by Robert Kirkman talking about how big of a fan he was of the zombie genre, and he wanted to write a zombie story that had never been told before. And then I read that whole volume, and I was like, this is just tropes. This is all just zombie tropes. Every single ounce of it is just another zombie trope layered on top of another. It's not like subverting necessarily.
It starts with 28 Days Later's exact same intro. And I think 20 Days Later came first.
And so this felt similar to that, and that's just what Kirkman does. Is he's like, you know what? I'm just gonna pull the things that I like So it's like it's literally a carbon copy of the Justice League and everything. And it really isn't until the end of episode 1, which I don't know if we want to spoil it now or if we want to talk about later.
Yeah, let's do
that
it.
I was like, okay, this is something you don't normally see in this kind of show. And so now I'm intrigued. That being said, it does still feel really tropey, and I think there's highs and lows. So highs are sometimes the animation is incredible, amazing fight choreography, like just the coolest like motion to a punch and anything. You're like, oh, that shot was amazing. And then other times there's a shot of him flying over the ocean where it's a key-framed figure, you know, like they had to cut a corner somewhere.
You gotta think that's because of budget, right? Because I completely agree. That's one of the things that I was kind of like back and forth with in my mind about the show, or just like there are when they're doing their daily mundane things, it doesn't look well animated. You know, the eyes look a little dead sometimes, and there's not a little facial expression in the like, you know, the upper face and the you know, the cheeks and the eyes. But the fight scenes are so well done and animated. And I was just like, well, you know, it's probably one, you know, it's a budget thing, and two, the fact that, I mean, these are 40-minute episodes, so
it's a lot of content.
But you say it's a budget, it's really long for an animated series.
Expensive.
You say it's a budget thing though, but they have a crazy cast, and I'm sure that those guys are getting paid like an okay amount. But like
I was
gonna
say, but
Oscar
then there's
winners.
there's a whole probably an animation studio who's like thinking about how much John Hamm or whatever is getting paid to go into a voice booth for like 15 minutes, and they're like, I have been toiling away for the last 9 months on this project, you know, and I am not making that much.
The cast is Stephen Yeun, Sandra Oh, J.K. Simmons, Zachary Quinto, Jillian Jacobs, Jason Mantzoukas, Walton Goggins, Seth Rogen pops up, Mae Whitman, Ezra Miller, Nicole Byer, Reginald Bell Johnson pops up, Mark Hamill. Like, it's so stacked. And then aside from that, Greg Griffin and Kevin Michael Richardson, who are seasoned voice actors,
I'm surprised
also on the show.
Sandra Oh wanted to do something that was like animated. You know, I've watched her in Grey's Anatomy, big fan of that show, and then you know she moved over to Killing Eve, and that was a fantastic show. And she, you know, that show has won so many awards, and then it was like, all right, what's her next project? What is she doing? It's like, you know, Invincible. I went, what?
Yeah, she's great.
Hey,
I thought she was going
awesome.
to do Arliss again. You know, I thought we were going to bring Arliss back and we get Sandra Oh back. Anyway,
I do love that Clancy Brown's in it, and like he has the most recognizable voice of any person out there. And anytime I'm like, oh, Clancy Brown, yeah.
But do you think that if we had Clancy Brown talk and then also had James Remar talking, you would be able to delineate between the two of them?
James Remar, as in
It's a game show. James Remar versus Clancy Brown. Talk off, and it's the only contestant is Blaine, and there's only one episode, and the show is 5 minutes long.
I had to go,
Fredo.
oh wait, James Remar's in fucking The Warriors, and he's also in Mortal Kombat Annihilation. Okay, I would know Clancy Brown.
Okay,
It's clicking.
good. Okay, got it.
Fredo, since you read some of the comics, I was reading about how like the big turn doesn't really happen that as early in the comic. Like it happens in the first episode of the show, but they build more to it in the comics. So were you like, holy shit, when that went off?
Well, you know, like I know that Kirkman talked about how, you know, he felt that, you know, the comics had a great story and they wanted to really tell that story. I do like that. I mean, especially like right now, like I said, I read a handful of like volumes before I switched over to Saga, but it was one of those things where I was like, okay, like I kind of know what's happening here, and there's a lot of things that are being layered that are gonna, you know, be pulled on further down the line because the story gets pretty wild. That whole big turn I enjoyed more in the comics, but I was pleasantly surprised that it was different, but not too different. Like, so are we talking about the end of the episode?
I say we should just open up a can of worms.
Yeah. Okay. You know, so when Nolan was Omniverse, just obliterates. You know what I mean? Like the whole entire
The Guardians,
like, the Guardians. In the graphic novel, you just see like fists, like really tight shots of like fists and hands and people's heads being sliced off and all this kind of stuff. And then you turn that page and you see that it's him, and you just go, "Oh my goodness, what?" You know
that's
what I
a way
mean? It's
cooler
like,
reveal.
That's so cool.
oh my god!
That's-
and
Yeah,
And
that's
so, like,
that's
I
awesome. Yeah.
right, it's just like it's different. I do like the paper take more. This was just different in the sense of like, all right, you actually see him step out, beat the hell out of the Guardians, and I don't know, it's a little different because like in the graphic novel, like in the comics, you just felt like when you turn that page, how can he be stopped? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then
Can you hear my
entire
stomach?
squad.
Just like,
yeah.
sorry to interrupt.
He just destroyed everybody. But then in the show, it's just like, okay, if you throw enough bodies, you can kind of pin them down. So it was a very different vibe, which I wasn't like mad about.
That he's hospitalized. Is that an element that they have in the comic book? That he like passes out with the Guardians?
God, I don't remember. It's been too long.
It does seem like that carries plot wise though, because a big element after that point is like, oh, that's basically the turning point where it's like, Mark, aka Invincible, like you need to be careful because even your father almost like, so there's a whole, they constantly remind you like even your father like has almost lost once, and he's he's super powerful and he's unstoppable and everything like that. I'll say this about the difference in that I wonder if it's the kind of thing where that works easier on a comic book because you can turn the page and like reveal it in that way, and you can hide, like you can be confused while you're reading a comic book sometimes and be like, I'm just gonna figure out, and you go, aha. Kind of like the best comparison I could think of is there were a lot of surprise character reveals in Game of Thrones, the books that weren't in the show because they were like, I mean, you're gonna see the actor.
Oh,
There's like
Stark
the
coming back,
Kingsguard, the Kingsguard like going to help Daenerys and stuff like that, and like he's in the book, he's a character in the books helping her for like 5,000 pages, and then it isn't until another character shows up and goes, by the way, that's who this person is. They're like, oh shit, that's who that person is. There's no way you can do that in the show, so you have to sacrifice it. I wonder if it was like an element of that, or it could be that, like what you're saying, maybe they're building in a different direction, which is also interesting.
I feel like they had to do this though because like they want to bring in people episode 1. And I think one of the things that they're delivering on, like Alfredo's mentioned, is this has crazy fight choreography. And I feel like that scene, to keep it a mystery, you would have to shoot it in the wide in order to get it like a good choreographed fight. So I think they were just like, fuck it, we'll just reveal them early, and then we're just gonna have a sick like, throwdown and stuff.
And that fight is glorified in its brutality because when you levels. Just compared to the rest of that episode, where maybe the most graphic thing is that one of the they're called the
twin guys?
The twins,
he gets his eye gouged.
Oh, I'm trying. What are their names?
It's like the clone with
the Maulers. I think they're the
Maulers.
The Maulers. The Maulers. Yeah, gets his eye gouged out, and there's like a tiny bit of blood, and you're like, oh, okay, that's But then he just brutalizes the Guardians in that post-credit scene, and it's like, it's wild. It's so cool.
It's like heads are spinning, guts and entrails. And I feel like it sets the tone for the rest of the series too, because like so far in episode 2 and 3, we've seen as violent stuff. I think that I appreciate, and I think that something that Amazon's doing really cool is that they're cornering the market on superhero content and flipping it all on its head. Between this and The Boys, they have a cast of characters that no one knows, unlike DC and Marvel, where they have to like, respect these characters because they have these years and years of fan bases. They're just like, hey, here's Superman. He's fucking evil, and it's really cool to see that happen.
And I think it also works because they're parodying and creating, a commentary on the characters that we know. So like they're using those cliches and those archetypes to build their story. And Omni-Man, in the second episode, the Flaxons invade, which are kind of these like aliens that they keep rapidly aging, so then they have to come back after they stop their aging, which is great. But then he like there's this he makes this like speech about how like the Earth isn't theirs to conquer, but like Earth is his. And I'm like, oh, I love this. I love that it's like the Superman that's not the selfless protector. It's like, no, Earth is his, and then he just like decimates
This
Fair
is more of
play.
a commentary.
them.
This is more of a commentary on me than it is necessarily on the show, because I'm sure a lot of people in the audience will probably disagree. But Omni-Man is my point of entry for the show. like if they had delayed the end of the first thing where it's revealed that their Superman decimates the entire Justice League in the most violent fashion. He has clearly ulterior motives and is bad in some way. Like, if that wasn't revealed in episode 1, I probably would have tapped out of the show or not have really cared about episodes 2 or 3 too much. Maybe played a video game while Elise was watching it or something. Yeah. But the only other thing that it did, which is maybe not what the show intended, which is another Kirkman thing too, because Omni-Man is now my point of entry. I'm like, I just want to see what this guy is up to, because it's way more interesting than this kid who's kind of an asshole who has superpowers and is just like Mark isn't Peter Parker by any stretch of the means. Yeah. And I think that's okay. I don't think that every single superhero character has to be a teenager who's a nerd who gets powers and whatever. But he's kind of like, I would say on the cooler end of the spectrum for like a young teenager in high school, and then it's like there's a little bit where he's like
he's getting girls,
he
has people. They're
he
just
has
coming on to
nerdy
him,
interests,
like,
but he points out like it's cool to be a nerd now.
And everyone else is like, you're right, it is cool. What is this, like a comic book about what is something weasel? Like, and it's like, oh, I love
Doctor Strange dog.
Like his life is really, he lives in a beautiful house. Like he doesn't have like a hard go of it. So for a character standpoint, I'm not super interested. But Omni-Man and Demon Detective are the only two things that I'm like really super bought in on this show. And when I think about when I was watching Walking Dead, I didn't care at all about Rick or Rick's family.
Carl.
I was team Shane for the entirety of his run on that show. I was like, and it was such a weird thing because the show was crafted in a way where it was supposed to be like Shane, he's the crazy one. He's the wild. Yeah.
Was the Jeremy Bernthal character?
Yeah.
Oh, John.
Okay.
John Bernthal. Yeah.
Sorry.
It's like he wanted to leave someone behind so he could get antibiotics for the group, and I'm like, yeah, and he should have, because that other dude tripped on a wire and should have been left behind. But like the whole, it was like a weird thing, and I feel like this is happening again. Right, anytime I watch a Kirkman thing, he always puts something out there, and I'm like, why am I identifying with the bad guy more than the good guy?
Well, the thing I love that happens in the 3rd episode, because at the very end, Darkblood shows up and is kind of like probing a wife of
Debbie.
Darkblood, who we should
Debbie,
specify is essentially Hellboy, but
voiced by Clancy Brown.
Yeah,
he's a detective that
demon
like,
detective
can sniff out crimes.
And is it that he wants to stay on Earth longer? So
he
he's
doesn't
trying
want to be in hell, so he's doing these deeds to like kind of stay out of hell.
Redemption
credits.
kind of shit. Yeah.
And he kind of like comes into their home to interrogate her because I guess he's suspicious of Omni-Man. And then Omni-Man shows up, and I love that like she doesn't tell him. Like clearly like she's fucking suspicious of him or whatever. And
she's in danger.
I love it. I love where the story is going. I'm so into it.
There's a lot of foundation. Let's talk about foundations, and you could see right there, like the little cracks and chips here and there that you could, I'll be very interested to see how they peel this huge story. But what I want to go back to is like I definitely agree that like this episode is, and it's the same thing with the comics where it's like you just gotta sit there and kind of like eat your vegetables on the first episode.
Yeah.
Same thing with like the comic, where it's just like wait till you get to that point, and when you get to that point, okay, like you'll kind of understand the tone, and then things will start to pick up, things will start to take off.
Mm-hmm.
Something that I've seen people be critical of in terms of tone is the fun they're having with placing the title card. Because what the show does is they wait until a character in the episode would say the word Invincible, and then they bring up, this text on a kind of.
Is that a lot
I love
for you
it.
guys?
I think it's funny, but I think the musical cue behind it isn't good. Editorial-wise, they didn't nail it.
Yeah.
If it was like dun as opposed to
well,
But I
would
love
say,
it. Makes me laugh.
Here's how I would do it. Either you do it the one time and you're like, because that's what babies do. They're like, and that's what we do watching stuff like that, right? If you do it the one time, great. If you do it the other time, it should match the tone of the scene, right? So if it's like, Dad, don't you understand? You're not, and then it's when it shows, it shouldn't go like, Dad. It should be like Invincible. Like it should be a different like maybe a different title card with a different cue behind it, and then it
off
should
the flow.
It really throws off the flow.
I'm dying on
like
this
25
hill.
minutes in.
I'm gonna die on this hill. I think it's funny, and I love like
a good bit.
especially episode 2 where it's like this really kind of like somber scene.
Yeah,
and then it's like Invincible. I think it's so great.
But speaking of funny, I think that the biggest criticism of the show is the tone whiplash. It's tonal whiplash, which is fun on a roller coaster, but sometimes with shows it can get really exhausting. And so like the fact that this show whips back and forth from a kid going like, I think am I gonna get her number, to, oh, this guy just destroyed a universe is like, and his like very malicious about it is what makes it cool, but it also what makes it jarring. I don't know if you guys, Popcorn and Shield crew are even allowed to talk about it. But some of those DC animated films suffer from that as well. Bruce Timm is great, but there's some more adult subject matter that I think some of those things have taken on. The first thing that I think of is the Death of Superman animated cartoon that came out years and years ago, but it was basically like an adaptation of that story. Tonally, it was produced and written in the same way as the old Bruce Timm Superman cartoons were, right? Like that's how it felt, and that's how the dialogue felt, like very like Saturday morning cartoon with some heightened sense of things, but then it still had like adult subject matter. Or what was it? I think Killing Joke. The Killing Joke was the one where Batman and Batgirl had sex.
Hooked up, yeah.
Yeah, and they hooked up, and I was like, this doesn't match the fact that like this doesn't match Kevin Conroy being like, we must go and find like it's just like tonally there's some weird things there, and this show definitely has some of that.
I think, oh man, speaking of just kind of DC stuff, I was watching Superman and Lois. Just a real quick aside. That thing had me in the first episode. I was like, oh, this is great. What a good take on Superman. This Tyler, what's his name, is such a great Clark Kent. And it just quickly became Smallville, and I kind of hate it now.
It's a CW
There's a
show,
bodysuit
right?
for that, right? I can't watch it.
That's on
It's
CW.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean,
I haven't seen
Guys,
it, but
careful
I'm
where
assuming
you're going with this. Popcorn and Shield's falling apart.
Contractually, we are only allowed to talk about Gremlins 2.
it's in our contracts.
Yeah.
I haven't seen it, but I'm assuming that it's the same route that they take with like in terms of like the flow with like the Flash show. Or it's
There's
just,
a
like,
monster
it really
of the
grips
week.
you, and then there's something that grips you, and then it goes. There's a big huge lull, then you get like a mid-season ooh right when you're about to quit the show, and then another lull, and then you go, okay, maybe I'm just done with the show, and then it hits you with like the season finale and the big baddie.
There's a point where Superman finds a machine that's creating evil people, and Lois is almost killed. And then like he fights them, and then they fly out of that compound. And then, they fight, but it's unresolved. And then he's like, man, I don't know who these people are building this machine. And it's like, you're fucking Superman. Like, go fly there and kill them and find out. And it's like so frustrating because they're inhibiting Superman so much when he's the most powerful man on the earth.
You know who would have solved that problem? Omni-Man. My hero.
Omni-Man would have blown up the facility.
Omni-Man would have figured that shit out, and he would have blown it up while also making the people there scared before he killed them too.
Oh, no. It's funny because like James said, his entry point is Omni-Man. I think mine's the Mauler brothers, because anytime that they are on screen doing anything, I love it so much. And the whole clone back and forth of who's the original, I think is really fun. Them breaking out of prison in the third episode was great. Like I love those guys.
I mean, that's I think one of the coolest things about the whole show is it will just move past. It's not like Incredibles. It's a world of superheroes, but it's not necessarily about a world of superheroes. But then there are scenes where a guard is walking through a supervillain prison, and every single cell is a different thing, and you're like, what's their story? What's this person's story? What's like one of my favorite moments in episode 3 was the guy who showed up to destroy Mount Rushmore.
Yeah.
And I said to Elise, it was amazing because he's a villain and he's trying to, but he's also like oppressors, racist, and everything.
I was like,
And-
okay,
and-
I kind of see his point.
Yeah, we're like, he's
I was
not
like,
wrong.
"Oh, not bad. I think he's got something going there.
It's not
but
evil
yes.
for evil's sake. He has it's fun.
Yeah, it is really great. I think when the show steps away from feeling like it needs to direct parody other superhero stuff is when it's really its strongest. Duplicate is like the best name for a superhero like ever. It's like you make multiples of yourself and your name is Kate.
Speaking of that
Duplicate.
prison scene, you see someone else that has multiple versions of themselves.
Oh yeah, you do.
It's true.
And it's when I saw that, I was like, that's not her in that cell, right, Fredo?
No, but you'll see.
It's somehow what's another pun we can come up with? It's replicate.
Multiplicity.
Yeah.
Oh my God, starring
But yeah, you
Michelle Keaton.
You guys are talking about like characters that really worked for you guys. For me, it was Rexplode. I thought,
Fuck
was
that
it?
guy.
I was just gonna
the
mention
actor
him.
Jason
Mantzoukas?
Mantzoukas, yeah. I was just like, okay, I didn't really envision his voice to be like this, but it worked. It really did work. I will say that like one, he really like helped. Like that was the character that I vibed with, and I was like, this is a entertaining character. Fuck this character. But also at the same time, I felt like Jason was bringing like another level of energy.
Yeah.
That everyone around him seemed to not really match.
Yes.
And that kind of like threw me off a bit.
That's another
Especially-
example of like the tonal stuff that I think sometimes happens. Sorry,
He's
Elise.
way too cartoony.
I think especially being a member of like the teen team where you maybe are supposed to get the vibe that like these are kind of more inexperienced, like younger, and he's obviously a older guy.
Yeah.
I think Alfredo, like you saying his energy is fun makes sense because he's definitely this character that starts out a little bit douchey, but I have hope that because Jason Mantzoukas is so great that he can kind of maybe eventually he'll become a more likable.
Well, yeah. I mean, one of the hurdles is I don't know if anyone else other than Elise here watches Big Mouth, but
I can't stand that show. It's
But
so
A
hard
couple
for me to
episodes,
watch.
and I was like, this is a lot.
It's
it's
so
disturbing.
corny.
It's an amazing show. It's an amazing show, but like I love it. But Jason Mantzoukas is also a character in that, and again, he basically just plays himself. Like if you went and saw a live comedy show with him, that would be him, and it should be him, which is I think is totally fine for casting and stuff like that. But it is tough because his character in Big Mouth literally fucks pillows. Like it's like, oh, I'm gonna splooge in this pillow, and it's his voice, and it's the same voice because he doesn't do voices.
Yeah.
So anytime like Rex is like you're just waiting for Rex to say something that you've heard him already say 1,000 times before because it's the same voice. It's one of the traps we run into when we stop hiring voice actors and just start hiring characters.
Actors.
You know.
That being said, J.K. Simmons is Omni-Man. Like,
Oh, yeah.
I love every scene with Omni-Man. I also love Omni-Man, but J.K. Simmons is just so fucking cool.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hard agree. Any final thoughts on Invincible?
If an audience member hasn't seen it yet and they haven't somehow gotten it spoiled, they need to watch it. Just don't watch the trailers because the trailer gave away too much.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
interesting. This is one of the good things about streaming services is that you have to like make an active choice to watch trailers. Like I used to sit in movie theaters and go like, meh, like make a low humming noise with my eyes closed and my ears plugged, like so I could hear. Yeah, but
Yeah, I'm so excited, and I for a 45-minute anime show, I'm invested the entire time.
yeah,
Yeah.
Same.
for sure.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think it's a great show. I think they're doing a great job with it. I'm very interested in seeing, hopefully it does really well, and so that way season 2 has like a bigger budget, and that can go into like animating the show a little bit more, I don't know, lively.
Yeah.
During the
Yeah.
mundane portions of it. But I mean,
Expressionless faces.
Yeah, there's a lot of like great story arcs and different things to kind of like invest into, and like one of the reasons why I like Saga and Invincible is because it's not like the DC and Marvel comics where it's like you have all these spin-offs and wait, this thing happened to Spider-Man in the main storyline and then it split off and now wait, something happened to Spider-Man, he's back, and then something happened to him. I don't know. Like this is very like straightforward in its own like contained like universe, and you can just read it right through.
Yeah,
that's what I love about stuff like Paper Girls.
Nice. Yeah, of course, Paper Girls. I just love that we're at the point in the superhero genre where it's like, okay, it's superheroes is like the most basic premise. Like that's not the thing anymore. Like superhero is the most basic premise, and then for wherever you want to take that, this combined with The Boys, it's like, all right, this is how we're going to keep this genre going for several, like another decade or so, and not burn out and stuff. So
now it's about a 24-year-old woman that de-ages herself every time she transforms into a troll.
Yeah, exactly.
And you're like, yes.
Yeah, Monster Girl.
Yeah, it's really cool. Great concept.
Well, we're going to hear a word from our sponsors right now, and then we'll be back with some Star Wars discussion. It's 2021, and we are finally talking about our mental health as if it's a normal thing. And that's why we're excited with this episode of Filmhaus, which is sponsored by BetterHelp Online Therapy. No matter what your circumstance this year has probably been tougher than normal, and many of our lives have been rearranged. Maybe you feel isolated or your coping mechanisms aren't there anymore. But you know what might help with all of this? Talking to a therapist about it. A lot of us take care of our bodies, our physical health, but it's important to take care of your mental health too. We don't really consider that as something that, should be right up there with getting our, annual physicals and stuff like that. Some people have a lot of stress and anxiety, or they're struggling with a temper, or maybe it's depression, or maybe you are unhappy in your job or your relationship. You need somebody to talk to. If this feels like you can use therapy and get some tools and skills that will make your life easier. And that's a big part of therapy is, it's talking to somebody it's an ear to listen to, but also someone that is trained to help you work through a lot of the issues that you're having with yourself. And that's the really great thing about therapy is it's someone that can give you a different perspective or tell you that, what you're doing is maybe more positive than you think, and can kind of give you the motivation to change things in your life and take that responsibility. And that's really important. That's really, really valuable to have. Everybody is struggling. Everybody has their own battle that they're fighting, and there's no shame in that. You don't have to go on social media and tell the whole world about that, but you can talk to a therapist privately and get that kind of support and help. And especially if you're not somebody that's comfortable talking about your issues with, friends or family or getting that sort of public support, you can do that with somebody in your corner in BetterHelp. And BetterHelp is customized online therapy that offers video, phone, and even live chat sessions with your therapist. So you don't have to even see anyone on camera if you don't want to. It's much more affordable than in-person therapy, and you can start communicating with your therapist in under 48 hours. So join the millions of people who are seeing what therapy is really about. It's always a good time to invest in yourself because you are your greatest asset. It always will be. Filmhaus is sponsored by BetterHelp, and our audience can get 10% off their first month at betterhelp.com/filmhaus. That's betterhelp.com/filmhaus. Thank you, BetterHelp. This episode of Filmhaus is sponsored by Bespoke Post. It's spring, everybody, and like these delicate, tiny woodland creatures, we are all emerging from the fogs of winter and our slumber, peering out of our doors to see if it's warm enough to go outside again and enjoy ourselves. And as we emerge from this hibernation state, unshowered, possibly smelly in some of our cases, what better to bring with you on all of your adventures but a box of awesome from Bespoke Post. This is a collection for guys that will not only bring some excitement to your mailbox, but also is guaranteed to upgrade your life. I've said it 100 times, but James and I got this knife in a box of awesome that is like the best new kitchen knife that we own. This knife will go on to have bards sing songs about it because this knife changed our lives. So whether you're out there taming the wilderness or at home taking your bar to pro level heights with maybe some cool highball glasses or something like that, Bespoke Post only sends guys the best stuff every month. No matter what you're into, Box of Awesome has you covered. Styled and grooming stuff. You can get little shave kits, barware. As I mentioned, you can get a spiffy decanter and glasses set, cooking tools, outdoor gear. Box of Awesome has a collection for that and for every other part of your life. It's so easy to get started, and you can take the quiz at boxofawesome.com and your answers will help them pick the right thing for you. Maybe you like camping, so the Explore box, which has a backpack, would be great for you or for hiking. They release new boxes every month across a ton of different categories. It's free to sign up, and you can skip a month or cancel anytime. Each box costs only $45, but has over $70 worth of gear inside. So get 20% off your first monthly box when you sign up at boxofawesome.com and enter the code Filmhaus at checkout. That's boxofawesome.com, code Filmhaus, FILMHAUS, for 20% off your first box. Thank you, Box of Awesome. Thank you to our sponsors. And so, yeah, Invincible, I think we all recommend it to go watch it. Next up, we're doing some Star Wars talk. But first, we got to say goodbye to Fredo, who's going to another galaxy far, far away.
It's a trashier galaxy. It's the Yashimar galaxy. It's not really that great. Wish I could stay.
Thanks for joining us for Invincible Talk, Fredo.
Oh, no. Thanks for having me. This was fun. And for those of you guys out there, Popcorn and Shield. It's coming out soon.
Popcorn and Shield.
We talk movies, and we have a great time doing it. So catch you guys later.
Bye, Fredo.
Bye, Fredo.
Bye.
And now we roll credits, and then we come back on the scene where Fredo massacres us all.
Invincible.
But yeah, there was some other big news this week that I know pertains specifically to one person in this conversation. He must be pretty excited. James, the Obi-Wan Kenobi casting news.
That's right. I am a huge Bonnie Pace fan. So yes, I'm very excited about this Obi-Wan. Is that an L or Kenobi?
Kenobi.
The Kenobi show. I can't wait for the Kenobi show, Elise. I'm super excited.
I figured. No, Blaine, you're a huge Star Wars fan.
I am.
Correct.
Yes. And to be honest, like the Obi-Wan show is going to be cool. I hope that he gets off of Tatooine first and foremost before we get into all the casting news. Because from a story perspective, I like that they're bringing Ewan McGregor back because he's a fan favorite and he was the best part of the prequels, hands down. And I would love for Hayden Christensen to get redeemed because I think he was just kind of poorly directed in the trilogy. I just don't know story-wise. I don't know what this is going to do.
Have they said where this exists?
It exists
10 years after.
10 years after.
10 years after.
Empire Strikes Back, yeah. So it's the height of the Empire.
Revenge of the Sith?
Wait, yeah.
Did I say Revenge of the Sith? Yeah.
You said Empire Strikes Back, but so it's 10
Are
years
you a fan
after
or not?
Episode 3.
I am. I promise, guys, I'll be good.
Okay. So it's 10 years after Episode 3, based off what we're seeing here, which is the casting of Ewan McGregor as Obi-Wan, obviously Hayden Christensen as to be assumed Anakin Skywalker, and Joel Edgerton is the only ones that are relics of the previous
yes.
Bonnie
trilogy,
and also
right?
Bonnie, yeah.
Yeah, they're Owen and Beru,
okay.
so there's going to be elements.
Oh, right.
I mean, it's going to start with him on Tatooine, and there's a world in which this is all taking place on Tatooine. But personally, looking at this cast, there's not that many hot people on Tatooine, and this is a beautiful cast. So I feel like Obi-Wan's going to be called to go somewhere else in the galaxy. They have to do that in order to otherwise they're regressing behind Mandalorian because he's going all over the place.
Yeah, but isn't the whole? Forgive me for sounding so
Ignorant.
bitter.
It's fine. Oh,
But
sorry.
I was to say, hasn't the entirety of post-Disney Star Wars been nothing but a regression?
No, I think
in a lot of
think-
ways, they're constantly they're constantly making new things and then going, but none of this is as important as what you've already seen, by the way.
I feel like Mandalorian, with the element of Baby Yoda and where he fits into the sequel trilogy and stuff like that. That's the one thing that kind of stands out in the Mandalorian, that it's a head scratcher. But I think Mandalorian, that's the future of Star Wars to me. I feel like there's a world in which Star Wars becomes more of a televised show, and we might get a movie every now and then, but there's just such big investments for something that might not pay off.
Yeah, I guess my concern is how afraid they constantly are of stepping even 2 inches away from the Star Wars we already know, which then inherently ties everything back to the Star Wars we've already seen. I mean, I liked watching Mandalorian, but ultimately the last scene of season 2 did nothing for me other than remind me that they already think other things going on in this universe are way more important than the stuff that they're willing to devote 2 seasons to. So we don't know. I don't know anything about Obi-Wan Kenobi other than this image, but it seems like what they're already saying is like Obi-Wan Kenobi is doing all this stuff, but he's still going to interact with Darth Vader, which then is like one of those things where like we're only doing because people expect it from us, but then it also diminishes.
We don't know if they're going to interact, or maybe you'll just see Darth Vader somewhere else.
Is it going to be like a
cut to a side?
Like a sliding doors, or like a 2 stories. One every other episode is devoted to Obi-Wan, and every episode is devoted to Anakin, going around.
I feel like there's a world in which they've already confirmed that Hayden Christensen's coming back as Darth Vader. A lot of people are theorizing that it was going to be flashbacks to him as a Padawan, and they're going to do de-aging. But I feel like there's going to be a parallel storyline going on, and I think that they'll somewhat intersect, but I think character-wise, like, it just would not make sense for those two characters to meet, because it totally downplays their interaction in A New Hope.
I think you're right, and I mean, I'm curious if some of the cast that's been confirmed for this are actually going to be like, you're going to be seeing more of this cast interacting with Hayden Christensen than you would actually see Ian McGregor. Like, I don't think they're going to meet in this.
I kind of hope not. I hope that they can pull it off in a way that Hayden Christensen gets like a great, he gets to redeem himself. I'm imagining that they're going to have something to where he won't just be in the suit, because that doesn't make sense. So I feel like we'll see like back to tank Vader and maybe some elements of flashbacks, or maybe his like Force presence. But like, there's so many things that I'm confused and questioning, but I'm kind of trusting it, because if Mandalorian's any indication on where the series is or the franchise is going, then I'm like, oh yeah, they can pull it off.
I have some questions for you guys about what you think might happen.
I'm happy to answer any of them.
Shoot
especially if they're Star Wars lore related first.
Before parting ways in Revenge of the Sith, Yoda tells Obi-Wan, "In your solitude on Tatooine training I have for you, an old friend has learned the path to immortality, one who has returned from the netherworld of the Force to train me, your old master Qui-Gon Jinn. The secret order of the wills he studied, how to commune with him, I will teach you." Will we get some Force ghost Qui-Gon Jinn in this, Liam Neeson?
I bet so. He came back for an episode of Clone Wars, so I don't.
Cool.
I think that they're probably not gonna tell anybody about that because they want that to be a surprise. But I guarantee Liam Neeson will be in it.
James, agree or disagree?
I'm gonna say no, Elise. I think Evan Peters is probably gonna come back as Qui-Gon Jinn. Okay. So we will be seeing Qui-Gon Jinn, but he'll be portrayed by Evan Peters. So.
Will Jimmy Smits return as Bail Organa?
That's the question on everybody's mind, Elise. I don't think so. No, I don't. I think that they might have elements of the rebellion, but because it's such a plot point in Rogue One that he's like, hey, I'm calling in the big guns. I'm going to call up Obi-Wan Kenobi, or he's like a Jedi friend or whatever. He's kind of elusive about it. I don't think that that'll be a thing, because the big favor that Jimmy Schmitz, that Bail Organa had, was like, all right, like we need Obi-Wan for this. So no,
that makes sense. James?
You know what? I think we are going to be seeing Jimmy Smits in this show. I would actually say they haven't announced the number of episodes. If there's 10 episodes, 3, maybe 4 might be devoted specifically to Jimmy Smits and his character of Bail
Organa.
Yeah, Bail Organa.
They might have said something if he was coming back, and I think it would be cool, and I can't believe I'm saying this because it was the worst part of the prequels, but I do want to see what the state of the Galactic Senate is under Empire control. So, like, seeing what the senators are doing and how, like, stormtroopers everywhere on Coruscant would be cool, but I don't think it'll.
Which leads me to my next question, actually. Will Senator Jar Jar be back if we see...
Fucking hope not.
James?
Yes, he'll be back. Jar Jar's going to be back for this show. I know someone that knows Jar Jar, and they spoke with him recently, and he said that he has signed, the paperwork is signed. He will be back for the show, and it's not going to be a major role, but it's probably going to be, it's probably going to be kind of the same way that we would have guest appearances in The Mandalorian, He's going to be serving that similar purpose, like an Amy Sedaris type,
Gotcha.
Like something to bounce jokes off of. I think it'd be a good thing. It's kind of a buddy show, anyway.
we see some Darth Maul in Clone Wars, right, Blaine?
Mm-hmm.
Do you think he's gonna? Can he? I don't really know what happens with him in the Clone Wars. Can he? And I don't remember what happens to he. Does he die in episode 1?
No, well, no, he comes back. He's cut in half because his race, they have vital organs on both sides of their body, so he was able to survive without his legs.
Those were actually in George Lucas's very earliest notes and totally not made up afterwards.
I don't think that he will, unless they do a live action adaptation of some scenes from the Star Wars Rebels, because I don't know if you want me to spoil it or not, but like him and Obi-Wan do interact again, and he does come to Tatooine. But I think they had something in mind with like the Solo series where they were setting up Darth Maul as being the big bad in the Solo franchise. And then Solo didn't do that well, so then I think that they're going to be exploring story elements of that in the Lando show, and I think that's where we'll see Darth Maul. But I don't know if we'll see him in the Obi-Wan show.
James?
I'm actually going to agree with Blaine on this one. Technically, we will not be seeing Darth Maul in this, but we will be seeing 1 or 2 of his spider legs. So, because as we all know, Darth Maul acquires spider legs, and so we will not be technically seeing his upper body where half of his organs are or whatever, but we will be seeing 2 or 3 spider legs in a very brief cameo in Dagobah.
At this point, his spider legs are long gone. He has like full like cool robot prosthesis.
Yeah, but they brought him back for the show. There's a point. There's this. It's the throne room scene where he's trying on different legs, and it's kind of like a fun moment because he like looks at the spider legs and he's like, "Next time," and then he walks away.
I like the ending of that Wolverine movie.
Yeah.
I am excited for this show. I'm a casual Star Wars fan, so I hope that I can understand what's going on in it, and I'm looking forward to see if they can kind of pull off progressing Ewan McGregor into old Obi-Wan that we know from the original trilogy and give that some seamless
I think
feel
he's
to
going
it.
to do a great job. Like in later in interviews of late, he just looks like he's kind of getting to that point. Not like super old, but like it just makes logical sense at this point in time that that's where Obi-Wan would be age-wise. My big hope for the show is I hope that Kumail Nanjiani plays like a Jedi or something cool. I don't want him to be a robot, and I feel like he's going to be a robot because Star Wars has a history of casting really funny, cool people as robots, like Alan Tudyk and Phoebe
Taika
Waller.
Waititi.
Taika Waititi, Richard Ayoade. Like, I want to see him as something other than just a kooky robot.
I wonder if that's going to come to pass. I totally never thought of that. That's 100% accurate.
For whatever reason, that's what I thought of too. As they're like, "Hey, we want your voice in this," but because that seems to be the tone that they set.
I feel like Rupert Friend's going to be a villain.
Oh, for sure. That dude's empire as hell.
But it says "friend" right there.
That's what he lures you in, the false sense of security. James, I know you kind of have like a conflicted perspective on the expanded Star Wars universe.
I mean, and now at this point, it's not even the expanded Star Wars; it's just the Star Wars universe. But I agree. Ewan McGregor as Obi-Wan, like if someone just recut all 3 of those prequels to just tell his story, it's solid. His story in all of not even just his performance, but like he is a solid character, and I think that's part of the reason it's so frustrating and it makes Anakin seem like such a baby bitch, is because Obi-Wan seems so rational. Like he just has a rational perspective the whole time, and he's very heroic. And so you have this side character essentially that's supposed to be the main focal point, complaining and whining the whole time. It just like that's one of the things that really ruins the prequels and makes why people hated Hayden Christensen unjustifiably, is because like he was the wrong focal point. Obi-Wan was too good, and then they didn't know how to make the whiny emo kid seem like anything other than a little brat. That being said, I am at the point with Star Wars where no matter how excited I am, they always do something to disappoint me. And and kind of like Monster Girl, every single time something new happens, like everything gets worse a little bit for me. So like, even if it's good, even if I sat and I'm like, I enjoyed watching The Mandalorian, I still ultimately look at all of Star Wars and go, I am considerably less interested in this universe than I was when there were only 3 movies or even 6 movies, like, and stuff like that. But that's just been my relationship with it, because I think I want them to go every single episode start in a galaxy far, far away. Like, what is the galaxy? Because it seems like they got 3 planets and only about 5 people living on all of them.
They all
and
intersect
most of them,
and meet.
most of them are Luke Skywalker, and it's like I don't care anymore. So like, I wish that Star Wars would really lead into the fact that we can go anywhere or do anything, and I know that means not getting a super cool Obi-Wan Kenobi reprise and what have you, but like, I don't know. If they were like, we're making a new Star Wars show and it's called Gorga Flelp, and it doesn't take place near anything, and it stars Kumail Nanjiani as this guy who's just wandering around a not desert, like, I would be like, sweet. But I don't know. I will reserve judgment. I mean, I'm gonna watch it, but I have a feeling I'm gonna come out of it the same way I feel coming out of every Star Wars.
Yeah, I think if Jabba's back, we'll all feel good about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or a different hut. Maybe a different hut. Can we get some other huts?
And canonically, I don't know if that's going to happen. I mean, he does have a kid and a wife, but I don't know.
Are they huts as well?
Yeah, they're huts.
Does his wife know about the chain on Leia
chained up
thing?
women?
You see a mate of some sort in A Phantom Menace, like she's there at the races with him, and then he has a baby. I can't remember what his little name is, but he was in the Clone Wars animated movie before the TV show. He was like,
I would watch that. I'd watch them go at it. The huts do their thing. Verified amateurs.
I'm now Googling Jabba the Hutt's entire family. Oh,
I wonder if you can actually determine based off of the pictures that they chose for these actors who's bad and who's good, because some of the people are smiling and some of the people look angry, and I feel like the angry people are the bad guys.
This is another thing too. Like, the casting is really exciting, but also if you look at The Mandalorian, you saw that some of the casting was exciting, but then not great. Like there's some things where it was like, oh, it was an interesting choice. I don't think I ever want to see that person. Carl Weathers, I thought
cool.
was cool, and he was fine in the show. But I think there were other people that were cast in that show that you're like, oh, interesting choice. This doesn't work for me. Like,
you
so
just say Carla
Gugino,
Gugino, it's all right.
Justice for Han, Sung Kang. Justice for Han.
Carla Gugino. You mean Gina Carano?
Carla Gugino. Wait, what? Shit.
You got like the syllables thing, like all the phonetics. They're the name. I just realized their name is the same forwards and backwards.
Well, we should probably end the show there. Thanks for joining us, Blaine, and talking Star Wars. So knowledgeable. We appreciate it. And you have a new show coming out?
Oh, I do. It's called Popcorn and Shield. Maybe you've heard of it. We watch Warner Brothers films, and then we talk about them, and they gave us full access to their vault, and it's real cool. I have a friend there. His name's Alfredo.
Alfredo, I knew exactly what he was going to do. It's on the Warner Brothers YouTube Entertainment channel. Butchered that, and it premieres April 9th. It's a lot of fun to do. James, look at this, looking on in envy of the Water Tower kids.
Yeah. No, you can't hurt me because I'm
bad.
Invincible.
It goes Invincible.
I was like, oh, I get the bit.
Well, that's the show for this week. Thanks everyone for entertaining, and oh my god, for tuning in.
That's a great word. You should copyright that.
Entertainment. And we'll catch you next week.